You said, we're at a pivotal point because of the nation's soul sickness. Mm-hmm. You used that word soul sickness, and when I read that word, man, it jumped off the page at me. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is true. Can you explain what you were saying there?
Yeah, I think that we are engaged in a period of very, very serious soul sickness. I wrote that article just after the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. And just to give you an illustration of what I mean by the soul sickness, okay, and this is going to hurt a little bit, no matter what political party you happen to ascribe to, and I want it to. I want it to, because it hurt me when I started thinking about it inwardly of myself. What I mean by our soul sickness is that we have detached ourselves, as Nietzsche had said, once we had detached ourselves from the sun, meaning God, when we had detached ourselves from the sun and the earth now strays to an infinite nothing, we don't know up and down, left and right, none of these things anymore. And so we stray through an infinite nothing, it seems, not knowing where we're going. And that causes a soul sickness because we're not attached to the source of our own life, which then results in the ways in which we look at something and we look at politics and we become almost obsessed with making sure that people who we don't agree with aren't even dismissed. And that's one word we do use. We actually don't even want them to be dismissed. We want them to be destroyed. Here's an example. So the assassination attempt happens, and you went onto Twitter, which I'm not sure you should always do, but you go on Twitter or any social media platform for that matter. It didn't even matter, even the nicest ones, even the touchy-feely ones like Instagram. When you go onto those, you saw the hashtag that was trending. You know what the hashtag that was trending right after the assassination attempt? How'd you miss? I find it fascinating that a mass shooting occurred, and the public, at least a segment of the public, was lamenting that the body count wasn't one higher. Now, this is the part that's going to bite a little bit, okay? Because there's some people here who watched the presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And did you watch it? I'm not asking you to raise your hand. Please don't raise your hand, actually. But did you watch it hoping that Joe Biden would perform so poorly and have moments of cognitive decline where he would embarrass himself? And then when he did, the jokes started happening in the late night TV, and we were like, oh, like the guy we don't like, looked like an idiot, looked like a fool, looked like someone who has Alzheimer's disease. And I say this as someone with a certain level of conviction because two people I love died of that. And I'm looking at this and I'm watching, and people are gleefully making fun of a guy who, if he was my grandfather, I would be like, what are we doing? We have to get Grandpa help. Right. Because I've equated, or we, not I, but I'm saying we collectively have equated the value of Donald Trump, made in God's image, with the ideas of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Or Joe Biden, made in God's image, with the ideas and the policies that Joe Biden and his party held. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, there's a soul sickness because you fail to see the fundamental truths. Soul sickness is all about failing to see fundamental truths in our lives. And that fundamental truth comes from the first chapter of Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Let us make man in our image. And so he created them in his image, after his likeness. Male and female did he create them. In his image did he create them. And Jesus quotes it back in Matthew. Again, when you fail to see that fundamental truth that happens in the very first chapter of Genesis, no wonder we act the way we act, and we never find satisfaction for our hate. Hate has this ability. Anger has this ability. Clenching your fist has this ability. It's like carb addiction. You can never have enough carbs. Well, you can never have enough hate. You can never have enough of it. And you can never your anger can never be fed enough. And the algorithms can never give you enough things to be angry about and to repost about and to post things like, you see these people? They're awful people. They're devils. And before you know it, you've become just like them. That's soul sickness.
Yeah, I think that there's a fine line between I'm just standing on truth and then slander.
Yeah.
And discord, and fits of rage, and all the things that the New Testament tells us, like as believers, we're not supposed to fall into these traps.
Right.
But yet, because of soul sickness, because of the polarization of the world, it's super easy to fall into one of these categories.